एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल द सोलफुल डायरी। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे इस्मत चुगताई के वर्क क्रूग लाइंस या फिर टेढ़ी लकीर के बारे में। पोएट इस्मत चुगताई के बारे में हम पहले एक वीडियो में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, जिसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में। चलिए आज की स्टोरी डिस्कस करते हैं। चलिए अब स्टोरी जान लेते हैं। टेढ़ी लकीर, वन ऑफ इस्मत चुगताई's मोस्ट ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल वर्क, tells the story of Shaman and her world, a woman and her family, from her mother to her sisters and cousins, to her time at a boarding school and experiences there, and how she grows into a woman on the brink of India's independence, at the same time fighting her inner battles. The Krug Lines is about Indian women living in Parda, the world Shaman is born and grows into in the first part of the book. Her amma, who is callous enough to let Shaman being taken care by her of by her sisters, her body uppy older sister, who is a premature widow and uses this to her advantage time and again in the family. Her cousin Noori, who very early on understands how to wield power over men. Chughta's characters may appear weak and subdued, but don't be fooled. They are strong and yet know when to appear weak. The world of Parda disappears as Shaman grows up with its own set of rules, and all comes down to how women control men around them. Shaman, now educated, sees herself different from her family and is almost alienated by them. She doesn't even understand her place in the modern world and somewhat stuck in a limbo. Ismat Chughta's characters are also known to traverse paths of identity confusion more often than not, be it Masuma from the novel of the same name or even Bichu Fufi. They are always struck, always searching and breaking paradigms in their small ways. Shaman does the same and is seeing the world change drastically, be it through her friend Alma, who has a child out of wedlock and is unable to love it fully or abort it. Although Bilqis, the femme fatale who uses men and is always surrounded by them without knowing if she loves them or just using them. This is also a contrast in the book. Women who are neither here nor there, women who were in Parda had no control, and women who have the freedom to know what to make of it. In all of this is Shaman's role as a headmistress, which reminded me so much of the Bronte sisters and her relationship with the gossiping colleagues, to her own sexuality and when it blossoms. Chughta's feminism is not contained of a or a listicle of sorts. It is the kind of feminism that questions and makes you very uncomfortable while asking those questions. She isn't apologetic, and neither are her characters. Tahira Naqvi's translation from the Urdu is top notch, as she keeps all phrases and words intact where they should be. This was perhaps the last Chuktai book that I had left to read. Knowing me though, I will go back to her works and almost every year. She was truly a woman of gumption and is reflected in her writing all the way. Read her works, and I would be very envious of you if you haven't read her at all, because there is so much there for you to read and adore. Characters. The primary characters in Ismat Chughta's Tedhi Lakeer is the rebellious and headstrong Shaman, whose life story forms the narrative core alongside significant supporting characters like a confident Alma and a manipulative Bilqis. The novel features a cast of characters who embody the restrictive patriarchal society that Shama navigates and challenges, including her family members, her gossiping colleagues, and boys who flirt with her as she grows from childhood to young adulthood. Shama or Shaman, the protagonist, is portrayed as a headstrong, intellectual, and rebellious young girl who grows into a free spirited and independent woman. She challenges societal norms and pursuing education and a life of her own terms despite resistance from her family and society. Alma, Sharma's friend, depicted as an illegitimate child who is unable to fully embrace her forced marriage. Bil- Bilqis, a femme fatal who uses men for her own benefit and is always surrounded by them, showcasing a contrasting facet of female experiences within a narrative's patriarchal world. The brother of a classmate and another unlikely father, these male characters represent Shama's initial experience with the mixing and mingling of the sexes and her budding awareness of her own sexuality as she transitions from a childhood unaware of gender separation to a more open interaction with the world. Gossiping colleagues, these women, with their petty rivalries and judgments, highlight the social pressures and constraints that even educated women face within their work environment. Rabbo, a maid servant mentioned in a related context, who serves as a point reference for Shama's observation of the world from a privileged viewpoint. These characters collectively contribute to the novel's exploration of themes such as female agency, societal exploration, and the complexities of women life within a conservative patriarchal society. Themes: Tedhi Lakeer, The Krug Line by Ismat Chughtai explores themes of women's autonomy, the constraints of patriarchal society, the hypocrisy of traditions, and the complex challenges of navigating a world shifting between traditional Islamic culture and modern colonial influenced ideas. The novel, considered Chughta's magnum opus and a quasi autobiographical work, follows the protagonist Shama's journey from birth to adulthood, depicting her rebellion against societal norms, the limitations of women within the Purdah system, and her quest for genuine affection and self respect. Women's autonomy and agency. The novel centers on Shama and other women's struggle for self determination and control over their lives within a male dominated society, patriarchal structure, and hypocrisy. Chughtai exposes the underlying power imbalances, double standards, and repression embedded in the feudal and patriarchal structures of the society she depicts. The constraints of Parda. The novel vividly portrays the limited world of women confined by the Parda veiling system, showing their efforts to wield indirect power and the lassitude of their existence. The interplay of tradition and modernity. Shama's journey represents the push and pull between traditional customs and the new modern ideas introduced by the British colonial rule, with the latter often failing to provide true emotional or sexual intellectual fulfillment. Female sexuality. Teddy Lakeer also addresses in a challenging manner for its time themes of female sexuality and desires, which were often taboo subjects in the Muslim world and on the subcontinent. The quest for love and belonging. The protagonist's deep-seated desire for genuine affection drives her rebellious actions, highlighting the emotional void created by loveless marriages and unsupportive families. Social satire. Chukta uses her powerful writing to satirize the social customs, rituals, and hypocrisy surrounding women's life, particularly in the context of marriage. Motifs. Key motifs in Ismat Chughta's Teri Lakeer or the Krug Line include female sexuality and desire, challenges to patriarchal structures and traditions, the clash between tradition and modernity, feminist awakening and defiance, and the exploration of the inner world of Muslim women in the backdrop of colonial India. The novel's central character Shama embodies these themes as she navigates her coming of age journey, questioning societal norms and asserting her individuality. Female sexuality and desire. Chughtai fearlessly addresses women's desire, placing them on equal footing with men's and challenging the taboo surrounding the topic. The narrative explores female sexuality and desire through the protagonist Shama in a way that was groundbreaking for the time. Patriarchal structure and traditions. The novel critiques the restrictive patriarchal society of the era, particularly the Zinana women's quarters, world of Muslim women living in Parda. It highlights the exploitation and inequality within these structures and how women must navigate them tradition versus modernity. The crook line of the title can symbolize the unpredictable and ambiguous path of navigating both traditional values and modern. Shama's experiences reflect the struggle of an educated woman caught between her family's traditions and the promises of a new modern world, which doesn't always provide the expected fulfillment. Feminist awakening and defiance. The protagonist Shama is a rebellious, headstrong, and free spirited character who challenges stereotypes. She takes charge of her own existence, refusing to conform to societal expectations for women. Her journey represents a feminist awakening and a refusal to be defined by others. Coming of age and identity. Tedhi Lakeer is a quasi-autobiographical coming-of-age story for its protagonist Shama. Her experiences with education, work, and relationship are central to her evolving identity as an individual and a woman. Then, a world of women. Chughtai delves into the complexities of women, inner lives, their struggles, and their often unspoken dilemmas. Her characters, like Shama, allow readers to see the world from a distinctly female perspective, making the story deeply relatable. Symbols. In Ismat Chughtai, the crook line, Tedhi Lakeer's symbols include the parda veiling, which represents confinement and social restrictions on women, books and reading, symbolizing freedom, and the protagonist Shama's initial rebellion against meaningless knowledge. The crook line itself embodying Shama's rebellious, unconventional path and defines stereotypes and a woman created world, highlighting the inner lives and struggles of women within patriarchal structures. The crook line or Tedhi Lakeer. The crook line is a central symbol representing the protagonist Shama's entire life journey. Her name literally means crook line in Urdu, and this symbolizes her rebellious nature, her refusal to follow traditional paths, and her unique unconventional existence. Books and reading. Early in the novel, Shama's first encounter with books is a frustrated one. The words are meaningless when together by her sister. However, her eventual engagement with reading becomes a symbol of her intellectual awakening and her desire to break free from ignorance and oppression. Parda. The concept of parda, the practice of women remaining in seclusion, is a significant symbol of the patriarchal society and its attempt to control women's life. The novel explores Shama's world from within this confined system and her struggle against it. The woman centered world. The narrative is largely focused on the experiences and thoughts of women. This itself serves as a symbolic act, shifting the focus to the previously silenced and marginalized voice of women as Chughtai sought to lift the veil on these often hidden aspects of life. Broader thematic symbols, rebellion and independence. Ma's entire journey from her hostel life to her unconventional marriage and fight for independence is a symbolic representation of the broader struggle for women's autonomy and freedom from societal stereotypes. The novel explores the Zanana or the world of women living in Parda. The setting is a symbolic space where gender inequality, hidden desires, and the unique challenges faced by women are brought to the forefront. थैंक यू। आई होप आज की वीडियो आपको पसंद आई। कैसी लगी हमें कमेंट्स करके बताओ। अगर कोई डाउट या सजेशंस है तो वो भी आप कमेंट सेक्शन में ड्रॉप कर सकते हैं। अगर वीडियो अच्छी लगी तो लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माई चैनल। मिलते हैं कल एक और इन्फॉर्मेटिव वीडियो के साथ शाम 4 बजे। टिल देन कीप वॉचिंग एंड कीप सपोर्टिंग द सोलफुल डायरी। थैंक यू।